Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to the Midwest City Council meeting for February 13th, 2018. I want to open up the council meeting this evening. When you work around a city as long as I have, you make a lot of friends. And we lost one of the finest men I've ever met tonight. Assistant Chief Reese Morrison of the Midwest City Fire Department passed away due to a heart attack. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children, and he's a 20-year-plus veteran of the fire department. It's a sad time for our family, and I would request that your indulgence of providing a moment of silence for Reese, his family, and our family at the Midwest City Police Department. Thank you very much. I do want to introduce 2 cadets from Carl Albert High School, 2 seniors. They'll be leading us in the pledge this evening, and Travis Washcom and Braxton Mail. They are both seniors at Carl Albert, and Braxton plans to attend college at the University of Miami, and Travis plans to attend college at Rose State and then transfer to the Oklahoma State University Cowboys. With that being said, I'd ask for you to stand and ask Mr. Sullivan to come down and lead us in our invocation.
Would you bow with me, please? Father God, our Creator, our Sustainer of life, Father, our hearts are heavy tonight in the loss of one of our Midwest City family. Father, I'd ask that your comfort and peace be upon the Morrison family. Give them comfort. Father, I ask that your arm of protection be around them. Father, I ask you be with his brothers in the fire service, not only in Midwest City, but Father, he's well known across the country for his talents and his skills. Father, I ask that you be with the rest of us as his Midwest City family. We understand that life is fragile. Father, remind us daily, it's not about us, it's about you. Thank you for his service. And Father, be upon us this night as we meet. We have important items to discuss, important decisions that need to be made. I'd ask your wisdom and protection, your comfort, your discernment be upon this council. Help their minds to be sharp, the decisions to be made for the good of the whole. We're blessed to be living in a great city, great state, and a great nation. We're blessed to have men and women who sacrifice daily to protect and to serve not only our cities, our counties, our states, but our nation. Protect them, Lord. Give their families peace and comfort. Thank you for Jesus. Jesus, thank you for your Spirit that you left for us. I ask this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Salute. Pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the council members. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have some community announcements. I apologize.
Wanted to, as I always do, first meeting of the month, give you an update on sales tax. We received this a couple days ago. It's for the month of February. We saw an increase in the of about $77,000 or 2.8% above same time last year on sales tax. Saw an increase in use tax of about $31,000. So for the month, it was up about 3.76% compared to previous year. However, compared to projection, we're just a little bit below 1% ahead of projection, or about $214,000. Also wanted to mention that our community development department has scheduled a meeting concerning the water line project, potential project on Rofan and Han Road for February 20th at 6 p.m. in the City Council chambers here. So that's February 20th, 6 p.m. In the City Council chambers. And then also wanted to mention that on February 21st at 7:30 a.m. at the Community Center, the mayor will be providing his State of the City address. That's 7:30, February 21st at the Community Center.
Any other announcements on the horseshoe?
I have two, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
First off, they're both related to German Middle School. The band director, Ms. Stevens from German Middle School, has made a request. She has some students who aren't able to afford reeds or valve oil for their instruments. She's asking for donations of those items. If anybody is willing or able to do so, they would appreciate that. Also, I've been asked to make an announcement that there's a request for items for a teacher appreciation luncheon to be held for the teachers from German Middle School, and they're asking for food donations for that. If anybody is willing or inclined, they would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Eads. Any other announcements from the horseshoe? That being said, we'll move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the council members, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any one proposed does not meet with the approval of all council members or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it be removed and heard in regular order. For clarification purposes, the chair would entertain a motion to remove item 3 from the consent agenda. Other than that, the rest can go ahead as planned.
I would ask who move to approve the consent agenda with the withholding of item number 3 and also item number 6. Just with regard to, we have a representative from the YMCA here, and I'd like recognition to be given in that regard.
I have a motion. Any I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? The motion is to remove item 3 and item 6 from the consent agenda, otherwise the rest will be passed. Yes. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Item number 6, we'll move into discussion. We would ask that retired Colonel Wilson come to the podium. And thank you for your patience in staying with us, Colonel. Ms. Wilson is retired from the United States Air Force. She was the 72nd Air Base Wing Commander for 2 years, and now she has moved into the Executive Director's position at the YMCA, and a very welcome member to our community. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
It's open for discussion or any questions that you have in regard to the contract that we'll be entering into with YMCA to run our youth baseball program.
I guess what I would like to at least say is one, thank the YMCA for their level of interest in performing a valuable service to our community, which is to provide a baseball program for our youth in the community. We lost the Midwest City Baseball Association several months ago, decided that they had enough, and so we've been looking for a partner over the last month and a half or two, and the YMCA has stepped up, and I think they're excited about the possibilities of providing the program, and we hope that it's the first of many interesting adventures we might pursue with the YMCA. So we want to thank them for doing that. Vaughn, anything you want to add? Okay. So, not ready to sign up, but pretty soon, correct?
That is correct. Thank you for the opportunity. We are excited about serving our community. We look forward to this venture and future ventures. Thank you.
And I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that being said, is there any further discussion, or the chair would entertain a motion to pass item 6?
Move to approve.
Second.
I've-
Second motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Ms. Wilson, thanks for sticking around, and you're now free to go if you care to. I know you got a couple of kids, probably want you home. Item 3 on the agenda needs no further action to be taken on it. It was placed on the agenda by mistake. We'll now move into our discussion portion of our agenda.
Well, Mayor, we do want to allow for the presentation of the park design for the original Square Mile.
Isn't that in the discussion?
Actually, we've moved it from, it was withdrawn from the consent to the discussion, yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll move into the discussion and consideration of the original Square Mile presentation. Representatives from Ochsner, thank you for being here. We're a little bit discombobulated tonight, so pardon our confusion.
I completely understand. I completely understand. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Anthony McDermott. I am the founding principal of TAP Architecture. We are an architecture, planning, and interior design firm in downtown Oklahoma City. And this year we'll be celebrating our 30th birthday. So it's a pleasure to be here. We competed for this work some time ago, many months ago. And we have been through a process with the city, with staff, with the public, and various committees that you have formed to execute this plan. We've teamed with Ochsner, Hare & Hare, that were the original designers of the original mile. So We have worked with them in the past and had a great working relationship with them. They're out of Kansas City, a group of very talented people who are actually the longest in existence urban and landscape design firm in the United States. So they're very worthy and very talented partners in this endeavor. I don't know what do I do to advance. Or is it you? Billy, just give you the heads up. Thank you, Billy. I will say that the process has been just a pure pleasure. We've gotten to meet so many people in the community. We've had elected officials involved. We've had staffers involved. I look around in the audience and I see many familiar faces from the meetings that we've held during the process of putting this plan together. The public input that we've received during the process of putting this plan together has been invaluable, and I think if you've been involved in the process, you will recognize that this plan is not something that we came up with in a vacuum. This is born out of a lot of public engagement and a lot of input. So the background, I think I don't need to explain to anybody in this room where the original mile is or what it was. It was the original planned center of this community. It is now bordered along the south by Town Center, your largest retail engine. This was a very helpful slide, we thought, to put together when we started looking at the plan and the area of the plan. We thought that we could explain or help explain the scale of the park that we were going to be master planning by comparing it to other areas that people probably are familiar with. In the top slide, you'll see, well, it's color-coded. So the park proper is 2.5 acres, and in comparison, you can see on the top right slide, Guthrie Green in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Many of you will be familiar with that venue. Very successful new urban park in the heart of Tulsa, the Brady District. And then bottom right is an illustration of the Myriad Gardens in Oklahoma City. There's some of you that have attended outdoor concerts there. The red area is the outdoor amphitheater, and then the mauve or purple area is surrounding the botanical tube. We went through many plans in the development of this master plan. Many ideas were developed and evolved and subject to public scrutiny and then public input. As you can see here, just a few of them. This is by no means all of them. This is not an exhaustive look at all the plans that were developed, but it is a fair representation of the different ideas that were explored. From the meetings that we held early in the process, this we felt was the key feedback. We took notes and we developed a list of amenities, if you will, and attributes that the participants wanted to see incorporated in the park design. And this is, I'm not going to try and go through this in detail, but this is an overview. We're going to go through it step by step, but this is an overview of the master plan for the park and the areas south of the park and the areas east and west of the park. The list on the left, which I can hardly read at this distance, and I'm sure you can't either, but it'll all be documented. But this is a list that itemizes how we addressed what we were asked to incorporate into the master plan. And then some three-dimensional images that were that we created to help give the two-dimensional plan some three-dimensional quality. And we'll, as I cycle through this presentation, we'll talk about these things in a little more detail. This was we have identified 3 zones in the master plan that we believe are distinct and apart from each other. There will also, these also dovetail with a phasing approach that we took. We do not expect, could you go back one, Billy? Thank you. So we do not expect to accomplish this entire plan in one fell swoop. So it is, we have, if you will, identified zones that could be construed as priorities in how to execute the plan. Thanks. This is an idea that came up during the development of the plan that I will characterize this idea as gaining considerable traction as we talked about the role of the park in the community and the role of the park in the immediate community and in the wider community. We were asked to develop a plan that would appeal both to this immediate community, to the original Mile community, but also to the Midwest City family and beyond Midwest City to be a regional draw. And this idea is the idea that we take some parking spaces that are currently between Alta and Lane Bryant, if you know the center well. Alta would be on the north and Lane Bryant would be on the south. So this is the north end of Charles Johnson Park. And the idea was that we could redistribute and reconfigure that space between those 2 buildings into a place that we could celebrate and hold events. We went through several, we held several meetings with Sooner Development to talk about how this might happen, and I believe we've reached a good accommodation and addressed any of their concerns. So this is an idea that we think we can execute. And what we promoted in this idea is that we take the asphalt out, we take the island out, and we do decorative paving in the entire space that could host special events at certain times of the year. But obviously they would be programmed. We would be able to close down both ends of this decorative paved area of this plaza that we've called the Connector, and we could host, up to a large crowd, easily 1,000 people, actually. We've also got we got great feedback on the idea that Charles Johnson then could expand its program and its program area north and use this, and then this immediately flows into the park area. So we've called it the Connector. Well, I'm sure we could come up with a sexier name than Connector. You have to trust me on that. One of the ideas also that goes along with the idea of this space or this event space is the idea that we could actually cover one end of it. We could provide shelter. We know that the city has a truck-mounted or trailer-mounted stage. We could deploy that at this one end, and excuse the expression, we could rock and roll in this place. Another idea that got great traction was the idea that with this project we would be able to tell a history of Midwest City, and we came up with several ideas for that. We thought that the location for telling the history would be in this Connector space, or what I call the forum space. And there are many different ways that can be done, many different ways it's been done in the rest of the country. Some of them very creative, very colorful, and the idea that it wouldn't necessarily be a stationary idea, but that we could rotate the exhibits and keep it rotating so it kept people's interest. We could illuminate it at night. That we believe that space would accommodate this idea of telling history of Midwest City. This would be a great location. Then there's the park proper. Again, we went through many design ideas, but what you see here in concept is the idea that at the north end of the park, which is to the left, to the right end of the park, to the south end of the park, I'm sorry, to the right, that the idea is it moves from passive to active, so that the passive end of the park is close to the neighborhood with the green space, open green space. The active end of the park is animated by amenities that can be programmed, pavilions, spray park, play spaces that are age appropriate, and we'll go through some illustrations of those here in a moment. This would be the active end of the park, the south end of the park, which is right across the street from the connector. And here are some ideas for adventure play structures. There would be two separate zones for play. One would be for older children, and the other for younger children. This would be for the toddlers, for younger children. The idea, this is on the left, here's an idea with the skyline of Midwest City in the background. You can see that. This is a more modern, this is a more contemporary version of a toddler's adventure playground where, you know, there's no danger of falling, there's protection on it's a soft surface. And then another idea for a play stream bed. This is an idea that Hare and Hare came up with that they have executed in other areas of the country. It's a very neat idea where you have water and stones. It's a more natural play environment. Again, the idea of the splash pad. This would not be your ordinary splash pad, but something that would be an enhanced version of that. It also could, we could also cut the spray jets off, and it would just be a large open space, a large open hardscape. And then the idea of pavilions around the edge of the active park. And these would be, again, would be programmed. These would be, you'd be able to rent these on the weekend for family events, for reunions, through parks. Zone 3, this is the redevelopment area. And it is important that I stress that this is an idea. This is not an acquisition plan. This is an idea that when the investment is made in the park and its environs, that it will catalyze future redevelopment of residential. I've seen this happen in many other areas. I've worked in areas where we've done this kind of redevelopment, and there is no doubt in my mind that if this investment is made by the city, that it will invariably catalyze a more dense residential neighborhood around it. This is, again, this is not an acquisition plan. This is an idea we think will inevitably occur. The option 1, this is I'm just going to roll through some ideas that we had for the north end of the shopping center, of town center. So, and I can roll through these really quickly. We came up with some ideas for a large dog park, some additional parking. An idea where it was all additional parking that could service the events that might go on in the forum or the connector, and also events in the park. This is a phasing plan. This is how we believe this plan can be implemented. And a phase 1 would be, I mean, you already own, the city already owns the park area. So that would be an obvious place to start the investment. Then the two outliers there, the two shaded areas you see to the right and the left, would be areas that are currently green space that could be very, very quickly and easily turned into dog parks. Phase 2, we believe if the negotiations that we think were successful with Sooner Development, that this is an idea that could return a great deal of activity, opportunity that does not currently exist. This would not be an inexpensive thing to do, but we believe it's a very doable project. And then, as I said, phase 3, we believe that investments in this area will inevitably catalyze a private response, and that private response is probably going to be residential, and it probably will be at a much higher density than currently exists. And we were also asked to take a look at the clock tower. What you see in front of you is the existing view of the clock tower, and from the parking lot next to Charles Johnson. And then we modeled some ideas that from that same, if we executed an idea like the forum or the connector that we've talked about with a cover over one end, it would look something like this from the ground. This is an idea where we could actually put signage on the tower that exists next. Then an idea where it's a little spindly, you know, the tower is a little spindly, so this is an idea where we might beef it up and make it look a little more substantial. And then this is an idea, and this is probably our favorite idea, where we could ring the tower with some lights and a light structure that would, next slide, that would light up and create a very iconic, with what's already there, it would add to what's already there to create a very iconic view, certainly at night. And then the idea of string lights across that space, and then the lit panels of the history. Again, a very conceptual idea, but I think it kind of communicates what the direction that we could go. And then again, the overall view, the master plan, showing from the bottom the connector forum idea between that literally fits in between the two existing buildings that are there, Alta and Lane Bryant, which then opens up into the park and the active end of the park to the more passive end to the north, and then these development opportunities that we think exist once this investment's been made. And that concludes the presentation.
Well, thank you so much. I've had had the opportunity to sit in on several of the meetings that you all have with our community, and it's a great plan, and we thank you for all the hard work that you all put into it, and obviously a lot of ideas and taking our community into focus, and and the input that our folks had, and we thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions, Mr. McDermott? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the original Square Mile Park Plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. McDermott, thank you for your time, and thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you so much.
I know there have been a lot of people that have been involved in helping shape this project, and wanted to recognize Julie back in the back. She's coordinating our original Square Mile Plan, and Billy Harless, our Community Development Director, and we've got a few folks back there from Sooner that, yeah, turn around, and that have been supportive in helping us map this going forward strategy. So thank you all. Next item is presentation from the Insurance Services Office and the State Insurance Commission Office on the most recent ISO evaluation. We have Representative Kenneth Stoops from ISO and Yogi Cole from the State Insurance Office to make a short presentation. Ken?
Mayor, City Council, citizens. We'll start off with this next slide. I'm Ken Stoops with ISO. ISO goes around to different communities, grading the community as a whole, which includes the communications, the fire department, the water, and the community risk reduction part that we have. So next slide, please. We work in 47,000 fire districts throughout the nation. We look at the fire suppression capabilities of a community in, for their first alarm response. Better fire protection grading, we think, equals less losses for the insurance companies. Most of the insurance companies use ISO in one format or the other, and then we provide that service to them so they can make a proper determination of what they should charge for the commercial properties and homeowners properties. Next slide. There's a total of 105 points possible, and then we have used the acknowledged and accepted measurement of the community's fire suppression capabilities. We reference proven standards, American Water Works, APCO for the communications, and then NFPA and the fire chiefs throughout the nation have given input into our schedule. Next one, please. There's 105 points. This just shows the different classes we have. Next. The trend from nationwide is for the 10s, 9s, 8s to go lower, okay? You see the 270 in class 1. That'll be an important fact here in just a minute. Next one, please. In Oklahoma, currently there's 2 class 1s. Next. This breaks down how we look at it, the infrastructure, I can't see, geographics, the fire department, the water supply, and the community risk reduction. Next, please. So this breaks down communication and how we rate them. Next. Midwest City scored 10 out of 10. Perfect score for communications. Very good. Next. We look at the fire engines, the reserve engines, the pump capacity, ladder service, reserve deployment, company personnel training, and operational considerations. Next. Out of 50 points, Midwest City scored 41.35. Very good. There's some things that just could not be helped, and that is the deployment. There's 10 points for deployment, and it was just, that's just the way it is, okay? Not that they're doing bad, it's just, that's the way it is. So, 8.73 out of 9 for training. Very, very good. A little bit of room for improvement, but that's, again, another one of those things that spend lots of money for not much gain, okay? Next slide, please. We look at the water supply in the next. Out of 40 points, Midwest City scored 39.73. Very good, very good. Yeah, it's have a very outstanding water system. Next slide. This is community risk reduction, and this is the things we look at. Code adoption and enforcement, fire safety education, fire investigation. Do we investigate all suspicious fires? Yes. So this is the things, and this is the points. The next slide. Out of 5.5, Midwest City scored 4.51. Very good, very good. I've never seen a 5.5. Never. Okay, for the total, out of 105.5 points possible, Midwest City scored 92.26. At that very other slide, you noticed anything above 90 is a class 1. So pat on the back for all departments, including the communications, fire department, water, and code enforcement, and all the city employees. You all did a very good job. So you got 92.26 and maintain a class 1 rating as usual. I tell all the fire departments to let their citizens know, and in this case, nothing has changed from your previous, okay? You were class 1 then, class 1 now. But so many instances, the citizens do not check with their insurance company, and they need to be wise and do that periodically. Just a good business sense, okay? Next slide. So this is the 1Y for Midwest City, effective April 1 of 2018. Very good.
Thank you. There is one question I have, Evan.
Yes, sir.
There's several of us on the Horseshoe that has gotten quite an education on APTA 1710 over the last year and a half.
Okay.
And of course, we established that. I said we, the department, and through the council, working through this study that we had by ESCI. I'm sure you've been. Is there anything, and we've had this discussion back and forth of trying to maintain that 1710 standards that takes away or adds to our ISO rating?
If you go back to the fire department slides, if you could go backwards, the deployment. Right here, C and D, deployment is 8.46 out of 10. Okay, so when we visit a community, we look at the 1710 records. So we're looking at the responses for the engine first out, and we give them 5.3 minutes. We want to know a percentage of time that they're on the scene within that time. That is 80 seconds to get dressed and 240 seconds to get to the scene. Okay, that's for the engines. So for the ladder or the service truck, we give them 9.3 or 480 plus 80. We want to know what percent of the time you're meeting that standard. Okay, so we can use the best, either 1710 numbers or the old 1.5 miles and 2.5. Okay, so that's the history behind it. So that's what we did here. We looked at the 1710 numbers and went with that.
So nothing that we're doing, trying to establish and maintain the 1710 standards is hurting our ISO rating?
We can use the best of the old or the best of the new. Great. Whichever. The important thing is, and I tell chiefs, this is a double-edged sword. You get some bad winter time, it takes 8 minutes to get the engine there, it's going to hurt you. And sometimes there's not much you can do about that. That's out of your control. So watch the numbers and keep track of it and make sure that you're trying to stay within that standard.
Okay.
But sometimes you just can't, and there's not much you can do. So with Midwest City having the 6 stations, you're pretty well covered by the 1.5 miles and 2.5 miles. So either way, we use either one of them. Okay? Any other questions?
Any other questions? Well, first off, the ISO rating, we've cherished that since we've gotten it. It's been very important to us, and we appreciate you coming out and sharing this with us.
You're more than welcome.
Any other questions?
We do have Mr. Cole here,
Yes.
who'd like to say a few words on behalf of the Insurance Commissioner.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, for allowing me a few minutes. I do have a citation for the mayor, but it's a good thing, Mr. Mayor. So I'm here. My name is Yogi Cole. I work for the Oklahoma Insurance Department in the ISO division, and I'm here representing Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner and Oklahoma Insurance Department. And the Insurance Commissioner has seen the value in the ISO ratings. Enough that a few years ago he committed some full-time staff to assist fire departments around the state in going through this process, and so that's my day job, night job. But the commissioner is very aware of how the ISO plays in the insurance rates for most people. And ISO Class 1 is obviously something that's, something to be very, very proud of. And you've not only, you basically reaffirmed it here and have maintained that rating for a number of years. And I'm not sure how many years it's been in effect, but it's quite, it's a good pat on the back. It does, and as Ken well explained, the process and what it takes to get a good rating, and it's truly a entire city community involvement. It's not just a fire department thing. So it's truly a commitment there, and understanding all the things it takes to achieve that accomplishment, and obviously to maintain that. So, saying all that, have a citation of congratulations. Now this is to the Midwest City Fire Department, City of Midwest City. Whereas Midwest City Fire Department has achieved a public protection classification of 1, representing superior property fire protection, and whereas Midwest City Fire Department displays tenacity and expertise in its dedication to reducing the occurrence of fires and fire injuries, and whereas Midwest City Fire Department has proven that professionalism, bravery, and commitment to public service can lead to tremendous accomplishments, and whereas Midwest City Fire Department's outstanding firefighters provide exemplary, did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Protection through boldness and determination. The Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner, John Doak, on behalf of the Oklahoma Insurance Department, finds this a most appropriate occasion to bestow sincere congratulations to the Midwest City Fire Department and the City of Midwest City. Now, therefore, the Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner John D. Doak extends to the Midwest City Fire Department sincere recognition and directs that this citation of congratulations be presented.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Get a couple pictures with David as well. We do have two people that have signed up to talk on this particular item. Mr. Maynard? No? Bobby Holland? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm Bobby Holland, President of Atkinson Heights Neighborhood Association, and I wanted to speak about the streetlight problem.
Okay.
But I will hold off until we hear from OG&E.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got the wrong item number. Bobby, I'll call you up.
That's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to close out that presentation with the fact that obviously the ISO 1 rating is very important to our community. It actually saves you money. It saves our commercial partners money. And it also exemplifies the professionalism and the hard work that our firefighters present every day in trying to maintain that rating. And that's why we've had a lot of discussion over the last 2 years, actually, over this particular issue, and why this hard work has paid off, not only for the city of Midwest City, but for each one of you sitting in the audience that owns property or has commercial property in our community. So thank you guys for your support in our endeavor on pushing forward on maintaining this ISO 1 rating. With that being said, Chair would entertain a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Make note that Councilman Reed was absent for the vote, please. We move on to our next discussion item.
This is discussion consideration of accepting an update regarding ongoing OG&E street lighting maintenance issues. Mr. Sullivan's provided you a recap of things that have occurred or have not occurred since a meeting that we had with OG&E representatives in October of last year, and we have had a subsequent meeting with OG&E today, and have received additional assurances about having some subsequent meetings with them to establish a more formal communication system that will hopefully improve their performance on maintaining the Whiteway lighting system that exists throughout the city, whether it be on arterial streets or section line roads. And I believe there's a high level of interest in the council revisiting this issue in 30 days. And so we will be placing an item back on the agenda a month from now for the purpose of seeing the progress that's been achieved with OG&E on addressing some of these issues. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Maynard, I think you signed up to discuss on this item as well. I'm sorry. Like your sweatshirt, by the way.
Really?
Well,
Jane?
it's not black and gold, so forgive me, but my grandson
That's all right.
was playing baseball.
The other high school.
Yeah, the other high school, Carl Albert, the real one's down the street over here. Jerry Maynard, 5900 Southeast 11. You know, I approached this council back when you first proposed and then subsequently passed this fee on to the people. This, you know, back then, and I still hold the same opinion, is this fee is improper because this serves the public at large. I don't have a relationship with the city and these lights. That relationship is public at large, should be tax dollars and not a fee. I mean, I've got a security light in my backyard that is lighting up 12th Street. Is the city going to pay me because they're using my light to light a public street? And that's, you know, the same contention that we've got a lot of people that have 0 lights in their area. They're paying this fee, and there's not a relationship. There is a relationship when you do your city sewer, water, sanitation, speeding ticket, building permits. There's a relationship there. Where is the relationship, between the city and that one particular individual? And it's hard pressed to have that. The other thing is OG&E has had a real rough record with us as far as providing information. When we had the ice storm, they wouldn't answer any questions. They wouldn't divulge any where they were at on maintaining anything. And how do we anticipate them to be able to come forward and do the same thing?
Well, that's, of course, Jerry and I, you and I have had this discussion on many occasions, and I'm not going to belabor the relationship part of it, but one of the reasons this particular item is on the agenda tonight is because we've established, with the help of Councilwoman Eads, Councilman Reed, and Councilman Burns, took the lead on going to OG&E and asking that very same question. Why are we not getting the service that we're paying for? And first, that's the first part. And second, why are we not getting reimbursed for the, I think it's a $400,000 check that we write every year, or every month, I believe, to provide those lights, and why aren't they working? And it's been a very vigorous and, I might say, spirited discussion, and we're moving down that road to improve that communication. And well, the biggest hurdle over all this is identifying every light in Midwest City to ensure that not only we're paying for what we're getting, but they're putting up and maintaining what they're putting up and we're paying for. So that discussion has taken place. It's going to be taking place again, and it will take place again until we get satisfaction, or we will stop writing the check.
Well, because I know that they had a segment on the news here about a week ago of how great they did on reestablishing a lot of the lights in Oklahoma City.
Well, and I made that very clear, the OG&E representative. I really don't care about Oklahoma City and their lights.
Yeah.
What I care about is the 26 square miles that this horseshoe is responsible for, and that you were responsible for a period of 12 years. And we made that very clear, that we're the ones that took the lead on this. And it was a citizen from Oklahoma City, not their council, that took the lead on it and identified all the lights that were out. My point being is that we are going to continue to have that discussion, and we are going to demand a resolution and make sure all the lights work. And that's the biggest point of contention that we have currently, and also moving forward into modern technology. And Mr. Sullivan is in the process of moving us forward into modern technology and replacing the older lights with LED lights, which is a better system and less costly. So trust me on this. Your council and your mayor is 100% engaged on this. We're not going to let our foot off the gas, and we're going to continue to demand. We are a customer of Oklahoma Gas and Electric, and we're going to demand what we pay for. So I appreciate you. The other part of it, you and I can sit down and have a cup of coffee at Underground and discuss that all day if you want. But again, I appreciate your interest in this, and we are engaged.
If I could follow up on
Yes, ma'am.
comments also, Mr. Mayor. It'll be maybe surprising to you, Mr. Maynard, that we agree on an issue, but we do agree on an issue. The issue is whether the citizens are getting the service that they are paying for, and that's the question. I asked some hard-pressed questions upstairs at pre-council with regard to what exactly the situation was with OG&E, besides just lip service too. We had this conversation last fall. You all were going to do an audit of the records. You were going to show to us an improvement with regard to ensuring that when a report is made, that the service is then rendered effectively. One of the other issues that was touched upon is, along with establishing a better two-way line of communication where it's not just the city or the constituents making reports, but also OG&E reporting right back to show in terms of a spreadsheet, yes, these works were completed, so it can be readily verified, as well as meeting with our engineering staff with regard to production by OG&E in areas that are needing more streetlights. Upstairs in the city manager's office, there's a large map with regard to all of the areas that are in need of streetlights. There's a lot of demand for streetlights that are not currently there in those locations. So that's another important aspect of this, is we do have citizens that are paying this fee and they don't have streetlights in their area, and they do need streetlights, and exactly how we're going to get to that degree of implementation. So I ask for it to be returned within 30 days to us, having an accounting with regard to where we're at with this and what the rollout plan is, if you will, for additional lighting to be installed.
Well, you know, my security light that I pay for that's behind my house was out. I called them, told them it's out, and it's back on in less than a week. So I know they are, but it's, you know, but I'm paying for that light.
Yes, sir.
But if I call in another light, which I have that are city lights, they don't care.
Well, and that's the point of contention that we have, Mr. Maynard. Thank you for coming down.
Which there's also a request for compensation to be returned to us as well, Mr. Maynard, for the services that we haven't been being provided.
Mrs. Holland, would you approach the podium, please?
Yes, sir. Do I need to state my name and address again?
Yes, ma'am.
Bobby Holland, President of Atkinson Heights Neighborhood Association, 202 East Rickenbacker Drive, Midwest City. My thing is, I agree with all of you. When I get a call from one of our members, and I have got calls, we get out and we drive the streets. We see the lights that are out. I call OG&E. When I call them, I get a work number. If they don't do it, which they didn't do the first time this last go round, I called them back. I told them they missed about half the lights. And she said, did you get a work number? I gave her the work number. She gave me another work number. She said, call me back if the lights are not fixed, and they were fixed. So that would be my suggestion to anybody that's here from other neighborhood associations, that if they get calls, make sure when they call in that they get a work number and they follow up with it, because if you don't, they're not going to get fixed. He walked down the street and asked the man that was fixing to put in some lights if he needed the order that we had and also the addresses, and he said, no, I have them. Well, evidently he didn't have all of them.
So what was the time frame that they was able to get your lights?
It was about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And I got them, the first part, they got about half of them, and we had several streets that had lights out on them. I don't remember exactly how many, probably 6 streets, I think. And we have people that do walk at night, that do walk their dogs, and just generally get out and walk. We do at night in the summertime. So lights are definitely needed, and there is places that don't have them that are needed. But I will, you know, follow whatever y'all do with OG&E.
I
And
think
you're doing a good
what
job.
we've heard from OG&E is that in a normal situation, their goal is to get the light replaced within 5 days.
Mhm.
But, you know, there are going to be those circumstances out there where there may be additional effort, extenuating circumstances that are going to require them to be, you know, to take more than the 5 days,
And
maybe
that's
take
true.
multiple weeks. But, you know, our experience is that there have been lights and there have been poles knocked down that have been laying on the ground for 6 months to a year,
Mhm.
and those have been reported, and that's the You know, that's the frustration here. And we're going to hope that we're going to be providing our database to them on a weekly basis, and we hope that we will get some serious attention from them in terms of getting out there and getting these things fixed. But, you know, it's an ever-changing activity out there.
It is.
Every night a new one will go out. So it's I don't think we can ever expect to be 100% lit throughout the whole
No,
city.
and
So.
we've got out and drove through the shopping mall, through Town Center Plaza, and I called on those, and they've been working diligently trying to get, we've got more lights on up there now than we've had in quite some time. And I stay on it. I guess I come by the name Bulldog for a reason. I don't, you know, if I get a hold of it, I'm gonna stay with it. And like Jerry said, we have a yard light, farm light, whatever you want to call it, that we pay for. If it goes out, it doesn't take them 2 or 3 days to maybe a week if we're, you know, in the long end of it, to get the light replaced. So I will follow whatever y'all suggest that I do or the citizens do. If you need any help, all you got to do is call.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
we
Harms.
appreciate what y'all do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But don't we do have a number that the citizens can call to Midway City, am I correct?
Right. We have a number that they can call in, and then we will communicate that to OG&E.
Yeah.
And we will, when that happens, we become the kind of the keeper of the information.
Okay, does
so-
anyone have the number that they would call?
Vaughn, do you have,
It's
I
on the
think we have
website.
on,
our
it's,
website.
there's a,
Yeah,
there's
the
a
reason
link.
I ask, because everyone doesn't have website, so it's good. Take this opportunity. What?
739-1060.
Okay.
Go ahead, and I'll let
And
you
we'll
get up here.
report. I want to say thank you. We, Mr. Mayor, we need more engaged citizens like this.
I
who,
concur, Mr. Solomon.
I think she had, I won't refer to her nickname for herself, but it sounds like it's rather appropriate.
I agree.
But it takes all of us reporting this stuff, and we need as many eyes on the street as possible to report this and keep us up to date on what's going on. I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping us out.
And I'm gonna just give a quick shout out, watch this. How many of you are from Ward 1? Raise your hand.
There you go. Mr. Reed,
Thank you.
you signed up to talk about this issue?
Not OG&E, a different issue.
I would like to say
Okay.
that it probably does take a lot of follow-up, but I would like to say, you know, something positive with OG&E. You know, that we've had some outages and they do an incredible job. There's a long history of a good relationship with OG&E, and I think that we're on the right track, and it's a complicated, seems like we're both at blame. We need to follow up and have a better accounting system, but
I agree, and OG&E has contracted the streetlight work out to a third-party contractor, and they're obviously not as diligent as the OG&E crews. When OG&E had it, it wasn't a big issue. They were working them consistently, you know, for a number of years. You'd see them turning them on and checking them all on the arterials especially. So I agree with you, but they're a big company and they've contracted this out. But you're absolutely right. It's two-edged sword.
Did Mr. Chappell leave us from OG&E?
I believe he did had to leave. Okay. Yes, ma'am. With all that being said, is there any further discussion on this item?
Didn't you ask him to stay? So I want that noted in the record that council.
No, the mayor,
She
it
then
did
turned around
excuse
and
him,
asked
but they
him
turned
to
ar-
stay.
But the mayor talked afterwards, and we talked, and he said he could, you know, leave.
Well, you can put it on me. For the 30-day return.
Susan did ask if he would stay though.
Okay. With that being said, any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting this report indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Next item.
Next item is discussion consideration of a resolution by the City Council of the City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, approving and authorizing the conveyance of certain real property and assignment project agreements pertaining to the Midwest City Downtown Redevelopment Project by the City of Midwest City to the Midwest City Economic Development Authority, approving and authorizing the transfers, conveyances, and assignments described herein, approving and authorizing the execution of such instruments, agreements, assignments, and other documents necessary to effectuate the approvals and authorization contained herein and containing other provisions relating thereto.
Before we move on to any discussion and action on this discussion item, on the last discussion item, I failed to obtain a motion for acceptance of that report. So the chair will go back as a parliamentary correction and entertain a motion to accept the report from OG&E.
Motion to accept.
I've got a motion and a second. Now, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you for indulgence on that. Now go on with the next discussion item.
In your agenda, you have the resolution which authorizes the conveyance of the town center property to the Economic Development Authority. Legal counsel Lisa Harden is in the audience to answer any questions. We have also included the quitclaim deed and provided you the assignment documents as well. So action is at the council's discretion.
This issue has been discussed and thoroughly gone over by our representatives. Is there any further discussion on this current item?
Move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Item carries. Thank you, Lisa, for being here.
Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, you can't leave yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into the new business public discussion of our agenda. Please be advised that any item that's discussed with the council under this agenda item cannot be discussed by council, but we would consider bringing it back as an agenda item at our next council meeting. So anyone having anything to bring before council? Mr. Reed, did you want to approach you'd signed up. I'm not sure exactly what item you wanted to talk about, but now is your time.
My name is Russell Reed at 551 East Harmon Drive, Midwest City. I was just wanting to know if you all know what's going on with the construction at Westminster and 15th Street and the stoplight there. I've noticed, I drive it quite often, and I've noticed that it has been completed and there's been no work by 2 or 3 months on either side of the intersection or to the intersection, and the light's been blinking red ever since they installed it. And, you know, what's the point of putting a stoplight there if you're just going to use it as a stop sign? And my other question, and my other one was, do they plan to put a stoplight, and I hope they do, at Reno and Midwest Boulevard? I know it gets kind of congested real bad and stuff doing. Westminster.
Mr. Reed, again, this is we can't discuss any items, but if you would call my office, I'm more attuned. Okay. Patrick will be glad to explain the Southeast 15th construction with you offline.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Reed, for attending. If there's no further discussion by the audience and no further discussion by the Horseshoe, we are hereby adjourned. I now call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees of the Midwest City Municipal Authority by unanimous consent can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss proposed item with the trustees, that item be removed and heard in regular order. Chair would entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into the public discussion for the Midwest City Municipal Authority. Anyone having anything to bring before the trustees? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I now call to order the Midwest City Special Economic Development Authority. We have 2 discussion items on this agenda.
First item is discussion consideration of approving the minutes of the special staff briefing and meeting of January 9th, 2018, and the special meeting of January 30th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this discussion item? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Next discussion item.
Next item is discussion consideration of 1, a resolution approving the loan documents and other agreements as may be necessary or required associated with the loan by the Midwest City Economic Development Authority to Sooner Town Center LLC and STC3 LLC related to the Town Center Plaza project, and authorizing the chairman of the Midwest City Economic Development Authority to finalize and execute such loan documents and containing other provisions relating thereto. Again, you have been provided the loan agreement, which has been designed and written in accordance with the term sheet that was previously approved at the last meeting. Legal counsel is here to answer any questions that you might have regarding this item.
Once again, this item's been thoroughly discussed. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into the public discussion of our agenda. Again, anyone having anything to bring before the Economic Development Authority and its trustees? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I now call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. We have 2 discussion items on the agenda.
First item is, excuse me. Is discussion consideration approving the minutes of the staff briefing and regular meeting of January 23rd, 2018, and the special meeting of January 30th, 2018 as submitted.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Next item.
This is discussion consideration of action to reallocate assets, change fund managers, or make changes in the statement of investment policy, guidelines, and objectives. No action is necessary. And we do have an addendum, item B3, which is discussion consideration of approving the 5th, I'll paraphrase, and final amendment to the Sooner Rose Phase 2 Theater Development Financing Assistance Agreement with Midwest City Warren Theater, Inc. Mr. Coleman?
Thank you, sir. Chairman and trustees, you'll see in your packet there's a request from Warren Theater's legal counsel to extend our agreement until at least March 15th. We're recommending an extension until March 16th, which is the, I think it's the 3rd Friday in March, but I think we will have an agreement within the next 24 to 48 hours. They're supposed to send over some documents in the morning for the mayor to sign, and we're hopeful we can move towards closing. Nevertheless, the current agreement expires on Friday at midnight, and just as a safeguard, we're asking for one more extension to make sure that everything goes well this week and we're able to go ahead and close out and begin construction. We had a meeting on site at the Burlington site on Friday, and the Burlington pad has been poured and things are going well on that. And we fully expect the theater to be underway by this time next month.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Any further discussion or questions from Mr. Coleman? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do move into the public discussion of this agenda. Anyone having anything to discuss with the trustees of the Midwest City Hospital Authority? Hearing none, we do have a executive session.
This is discussion consideration of one entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS Section 307C10 to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or to locate within the city, and to an open session authorizing the city manager to take action as appropriate based upon the discussion in executive session.
Move to go to executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
As a point of personal privilege, can we have a 5-minute break before we go into executive session?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hearing no further discussion, I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving into executive session now. You're welcome to stay if you want.